What's going on, everyone? So, the San Antonio Spurs, Kevin Durant, I talked about it a ton. I'm sure all of you are up to speed. If not, I have several videos on the channel about that situation. I'm sure I'm going to talk about it plenty more between now and NBA draft day, because every day there's new reports about the Spurs and, Kevin Durant. But instead of focusing on Kevin Durant, right, I don't personally, and this is just my thoughts, love to hear yours, so let me know down in the comments. I personally, instead of selling the farm to go get Kevin Durant. Now, when I say selling the farm, they're probably not going to trade Stephon Castle. They're probably not going to trade the number 2 pick. But they're going to have to give up a lot, right? There's competition for Kevin Durant, which drives up the price. And supposedly the Spurs or the Suns want a comparable package to what they traded, which was 2 premier 3-and-D wings, right? And Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges, along with Jay Crowder, which is just basically salary filler, and then 4 unprotected firsts and a pick swap. So even if they're willing to take half of that, right, that's a huge return for Kevin Durant, especially at this stage of his career with his age and all that, right? Let's say if you were a package for Kevin Durant. Now, look, I know people don't want to trade Jeremy Sohan. I know people don't see the comments, right? People don't want to trade anything to get Kevin Durant, right? But like I always say, it doesn't matter what we want. It matters what the Spurs are willing to do, right? So if the Spurs are willing to do the 14th pick plus Jeremy Sohan plus Devin Vassell, right? And either Keldon Johnson or Harrison Barnes, right? To go and get that. And you're probably going to have to give up at least that, if not more, to go get Kevin Durant. Instead of doing that, and I get Kevin Durant's the sexy name, Kevin Durant's the proven guy, Kevin Durant is the veteran and all-star and all that stuff, superstar, one of the greatest players ever, right? No doubt about it. I want to make that clear. And I do think, to an extent, if you can get Kevin Durant, you get Kevin Durant, right? But I also don't hate the idea of let all these people stumble all over themselves to go get Kevin Durant and go to a team like the New Orleans Pelicans that are shopping basically their entire roster. And for what it would cost you to go get Kevin Durant, can you go get Herb Jones and Trey Murphy? Right? Honestly, right? Like Trey Murphy's 24, Herb Jones is 26. So both guys are very young. Now, Herb Jones will be 27 going into next season, right? But still, right? So, and now you literally have your entire starting 5. Because if you go trade for Kevin Durant, you still need to solve your other forward spot, right? Because you would have, technically you could go, I guess, Fox, Harper, Castle, right? Kevin Durant and Wemby. Or you could go get Herb Jones and Trey Murphy and literally slot those 2 next to Castle, Fox, and Victor Wembanyama. You're probably the best defensive team in all of basketball because you got 2 versatile defensive perimeter wings. You have 2 guys that can score the basketball. Oh yeah, by the way, Trey Murphy has already shown that he could be a 25-5 guy, right? He's 6'8", 6'9", can slot into either forward spot. Herb Jones, 6'7", 6'8", can slot into either forward spot. And you have your team locked up for the next 10 years, right? Or whatever, 8 years. Right? Like, you're in great shape at that point. And you're probably one of the better teams. Obviously, it depends on, 1, how good De'Aaron Fox is. 2, how good does Victor Wembanyama continue to grow and take strides, right? What does Stephon Castle look like in year 2? But you still would have Dylan Harper, right? Like, you still could go do, because I'm not trading number 2. I'm talking about, like, if you told me you traded the 14th pick, Jeremy Sohan, Devin Vassell, right? And because Herb Jones is making, because 1, those 2 guys combined aren't making as much as Kevin Durant. So, you might have to do a Keldon Johnson or whatever. Point is, right? Bear with me. Let's say you have to go and pony up the same package for Kevin Durant. Yes, it's not Kevin Durant, but you solve more of your needs. You stay younger. You now again get 2 legit 3-and-D wings, right? You get that Jeremy Sohan replacement, and Trey Murphy, who's again 24 years old, right? He'll be 25 in a couple days, so I should probably say 25. But, again, Trey Murphy literally has shown, last year he averaged 21.2 points, 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. All right, let's get into some of Murphy. I'll do a full breakdown of both individually because I do think it's a good talking point. But just to run through Trey Murphy, right? 35 minutes played, shot 36% from three-point range, which is actually the lowest of his career, right? He shot 38%, 40%, and then 38.2%. So he's a career 38% three-point shooter on 6.2 attempts, right? But still, 36% isn't bad, right? And you got to keep in mind, they had no point guard all season because, DeJounte Murray got hurt, right? They were decimated by injuries. So a lot of this, Trey Murphy was having to create on his own. So keep that in mind, right? So even though the shooting percentages are down, it's because he had to do it himself more than he ever had to, right? So I just want to make that clear. But again, 36.1% on 8 attempts, 8 attempts from 2-point range, 55.6%, EFG of 54.8%, free throw shooting just under 89%, averaged 5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, and 21.2 points per game. Slot him alongside Victor Wembanyama. Herb Jones, you can slot in at the 3 spot, right? Herb Jones, again, is still young enough. Talk about a guy that was a 10-4-3 guy. You look at Herb Jones, right, who is, by the way, one of the better perimeter defenders in basketball, right? Last season, 32 minutes per game, 43.6% from the field, which is, again, was the worst of his career. I don't think that's a coincidence that the entire team was decimated by injuries, including those two, by the way, but entire team was decimated by injuries. They didn't have a true playmaker, so guys had to do it by themselves, right? So keep that in mind. 30% from three-point range. He's a career 37% from three-point range guy on 3 attempts, right? 53% from the field, 82% from the foul line, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, a block or half a block, and 10 points per game. Again, you don't think that they'd be better when they actually have a guy that can kick out to them and create the collapse on the defense and a De'Aaron Fox actually have a point guard, right? Or Stephon Castle driving and kicking and stuff, of course, right? Again, you look at every other year that those two have played. Their numbers have been great. The percentages have been great, right? But they, and that was without a DeJounte Murray. Again, imagine De'Aaron Fox. I don't hate that idea. You solve both of your needs. You literally have your starting 5 now locked up, ready to go. You have probably one of, if not the best starting 5s in basketball, again, depending on how good Victor Wembanyama becomes in year 3, and Stephon Castle in year 2, and De'Aaron Fox, how does he contribute to winning and whatnot. And you could still, because you wouldn't have to trade as much to go get those two as Kevin Durant, right? You'd still have depth, and you'd still have Dylan Harper off the bench. That might be the way for them to go, honestly, right? Hey, take the package that you'd go and trade for Kevin Durant. Go get Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. Boom. Right? They're a team that wants to reset, and kind of retool. Right? They're looking to do that around Zion. You have a lottery pick. Here's another lottery pick with the 14th pick. Here's Jeremy Sohan as a young, forward for you. You're replacing, the big thing that everyone says about Jeremy Sohan is but he's one of the better defenders. Well, you're getting that Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, and both guys are also better offensively. So at that point, you don't need a Jeremy Sohan as bad, right? It'd still be nice to have him off the bench, but you don't need him as bad. And at some point, you're going to have to pay him, right? So it's boom, Trey Murphy's already locked up. Herb Jones, you're going to have to get a new contract, but fine. So be it. You have your team locked up. I think that that's a solid idea. But as always, this is a discussion. Pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.